Hey, I'm Tamara, the girl behind Star-Crossed Knits, and today's video is a podcast episode where normally I share like my finished objects, my works in progress, but today I wanted to do a sort of a special topic and tell you all about my recent experience going to Rhinebeck, which is a yarn and wool festival in upstate New York. This was my first year going. I didn't really know what to expect, so I thought it would be fun if anyone else is curious about what it's like. So I'm gonna share about the festival, who I went with, what were the highlights and lowlights, what did I wear, what did I buy. Okay, so if you're like, what is Rhinebeck? I have no idea what you're talking about. Cool, I didn't know what it was either until maybe a year or so ago. Rhinebeck is referring to the New York State Sheep and Wool Festival, and it happens to take place in a town called Rhinebeck, New York. So now Rhinebeck is just kind of the shorthand reference to this festival that happens there. A lot of different states have these sheep and wool festivals. It's kind of like almost like a county fair where you have a lot of different vendors. Some are from farms who are selling their milled wool. Some are like general fiber related goods. There's also like an entire agriculture side of it with a lot of displays around like different sheep, goats, alpaca. So there's like sort of anything related to fiber and yarn and the adjacent hobbies that surround those are at this festival. Even if you can't go to Rhinebeck itself, this video might still be relevant because it might make you want to check out a fiber or yarn or wool festival near you that might be easier for you to get to, because I think a lot of the things that I liked about it would honestly be universal to whatever fiber or wool festival you might want to go to, not just specific to Rhinebeck. The festival itself, it's in sort of these like sprawling fairgrounds, and there's a lot of big buildings that are sort of set up almost like barns. Some of them have stalls inside that animals are in and some of them don't. There's also like open air animal stalls. And then there's also like an entire food vendor section. There's outdoor spaces where they do like different outdoor demonstrations. And then there's also some just like big kind of warehousey buildings that don't have any animals and are just like different vendors selling things. A lot of people go to Rhinebeck specifically to purchase yarn. Honestly, that wasn't really a huge agenda item for me because I'm not really like a stash buyer. Like I don't generally buy yarn like without having an immediate plan for it. Ironically, I now have a really large stash because I inherited a lot of yarn from a friend. But so I wasn't really stressed about getting any particular colorways from any particular vendors. I was going in pretty blind. I know that some people from my Airbnb had like very, very specific plans. Like one person really wanted to get a specific limited edition Rhinebeck colorway. Honestly, I think for me, it probably improved my experience that I wasn't really going in with any particular agenda because it just made it like a very chill shopping experience. I didn't buy any yarn the first day. I just sort of like browsed around. My plan was Saturday night, let me like think more about what I might want to make. And then Sunday, if I come in with a more specific idea, then I might like more purposefully shop. Honestly, I totally recommend that. If you don't have your heart set on like a limited edition thing that might run out on Saturday, then if you just use Saturday to like enjoy the entire experience without an agenda, get a lay of the land, touch a lot of animals, I'll talk about that in a sec, then Sunday it's actually a little bit less crowded and I found it a lot less stressful for me to then just go around and be like, okay, here's the yarn that I'm buying. And it honestly was kind of efficient that way. Okay, so I will say Rhinebeck was pretty crowded and I found that people were being pretty polite and like making room for each other. My experience was pretty positive with that, but I feel like the nice thing about shopping in pretty close like quarters with other people is you get a lot of this just like random chit chat with other people. So that was like the most fun thing about the entire environment, was all these like random interactions that you're having with all these other people who care just as much as you do about yarn or knitting or whatever it is that your hobby is. So you're like browsing in a random booth and you're like, you can just easily turn to basically anyone and be like, what do you think about this color? Here's what I want to make. Just like everyone had that level of like curiosity and excitement to like hear more about your project or whatever it is, that just made it feel like such a fun, like community experience to be there in person together. And I feel like that would probably be the same at any wool fiber festival, but I honestly, for me, the crowds were almost a benefit in that regards. You also just like, oh, you see the most amazing outfits. So that was a huge plus for me, especially on Saturday. I feel like the debut day, everyone is wearing like their Rhinebeck outfit that they really want to show off. So of course you have the Rhinebeck sweater by Ms. Andrea Mowry, who I think designates one for every year. I know someone in the group that I went with had a Rhinebeck vest that she made. Honestly, that was fun to see everyone's version of the same sweater. Like, it was so cool to see all of these different patterns that you've seen online but you've never seen in real life before, and now you get to see them in like 50 different color combinations at least. There were groups of people who all coordinated their outfits. Like, some people made all the same colorwork sweater with the same base but used different accent colors or vice versa, or some people had like entirely knitted outfits. Basically, if someone was wearing something knit, it was assumed that they made it. So there was just so many like fun compliments flying back and forth from everyone to everyone else. It just felt amazing. Like, if you've ever worn something you just finished and you feel really proud of and really excited about, and you wear it out and no one says anything about it and it's like a little bit defeating, go to a fiber festival, because someone will recognize your work for what it is and the amount of effort you put into it, and you just feel so like seen and appreciated, and vice versa. Like, I've never shouted out so many compliments before. It just felt like such a fun, supportive environment in that way. Wait, let me share what I wore. I forgot that I wanted to talk about that. On Saturday, which is like kind of the big day in terms of the number of people who go, because it's the first day of the festival, I decided to wear my tarot card star sweater that I finished pretty recently. I haven't shown it fully on here yet because, I don't know, I need to do like a whole episode on it because I have a lot to say about it. It's a very special project to me. But that is what I wore. It's made from Cascade Sport 220, and that was kind of its debut in the world, which was so fun. If you didn't know this, I am an earnest girl and I literally might cry during this video. But so anyway, that was so special to me. I will now forever associate finishing that sweater, that's very meaningful to me, with this like beautiful, amazing experience that I had this weekend. So I'm so glad that I wore that. And I also paired it with my summertime tote bag backpack version that I made last year. And that also just felt really fun because it was like me wearing my first design with a new thing that I made with like a lot of new skills that I'd built over the last year. Just felt like a fun full circle moment. And then on Sunday, I wore this cardigan that I have on right now. This, you may have seen it in my fall knitting inspo and one of my podcast episodes. I had just been craving a chocolate brown fuzzy mohair cardigan with like a little ribbon tie in the front. I'm wearing it with a machine knit cotton tank right now, but I did wear it on Sunday with a camisole that I just finished that's made in Knit Pick silk. Especially if you don't have a ton of knitting friends in real life, like who live near you, who you can like talk about yarn and fiber with in person, doing this kind of big fiber meetup and being surrounded by other people who are just as like deeply obsessed with this hobby as you are is just such a fun experience. Like, I go to the Airbnb, I walk in the door, everyone is working on a project together. Just immediately, like, the vibes are immaculate. Everyone's knitting, and I'm a person who loves to bring my knitting with me places, and sometimes I feel a little bit self-conscious of like, oh, I'm meeting a new group, are they gonna think it's like rude if I'm knitting while I talk to them and I'm like counting in the middle of something that they're saying? You don't have to worry about that here. Like, everyone is doing it. People, even at the festival, are just like standing in line waiting for things, knitting on like socks or little projects in their bags. So that's just like so fun to see that in person. Like, you just feel kind of kindred spirits, I guess. The night before the festival, so on Friday night, everyone is talking about like, what are we going to wear? Which was so fun because I also had been like, oh my God, what am I gonna wear to this festival? But like, I didn't really have anyone in person to sort of geek out about that with and like, you know, go through all my options and decide what I should be wearing. Two of the people in my group were like staying up late on Friday night trying to finish their projects to wear the next day. Tiffany actually didn't finish her cardigan sleeve and she just wore it with the needles hanging off of it. But she wasn't the only person I saw walking around the festival with little needles hanging off of an arm or a hem. I definitely will try things on at home and just walk around with the needles still on the project. Just little things like that I felt like were so cute and relatable and fun to see, and just so fun to like talk about all of our projects, all of our outfits, all of our ideas, our shopping lists, etc. So if you have the opportunity to go to one of these festivals with another knitter, or if you are wondering if it's worth it to like reach out to other knitters on Instagram and schedule a group trip, I 100% support that. You should totally do it. That makes it even more fun. But let me like get into the festival itself and explain, because even if you go alone, you are absolutely gonna have a great time, or at least I did, and I was like mostly solo on Sunday, so I'm speaking from experience. I touched like the softest things I've ever touched in my life. So I wasn't really expecting that I would like the animal aspects of Rhinebeck as much as I did, but that was like such an unexpected highlight for me. So first of all, I saw a tiny llama and alpaca parade. It was like so underwhelming, but almost like made it even better in how tiny and small it was. There was an alpaca meet and greet, so I got to pet this alpaca. I pet so many sheep, so many goats.
The bounce.
My favorite goats were all the ones that had little horns coming out of their like soft little curly coats, because it just felt like, oh my God, you're like a little fairy tale creature and you don't even need horns. Like, what are you gonna use them for? And then the softest surface that I touched for sure was a few different stalls had angora bunny rabbit. I was like, my mind was blown by touching these animals. Their fur is so soft that like my fingers literally couldn't even really perceive it. Like I'm looking at it and I'm seeing the fur indent and I know that I'm touching the fur, but like if I closed my eyes, I actually couldn't even really feel it. It was that soft that like my nerves weren't sensitive enough to even feel it until you like, you know, press down like 3 inches and reach a warm bunny underneath. And the bunnies were so chill. It was just, that was like magical to me. And then all of these little like farm demos I just thought were so charming and cool. I watched probably at least 3 or 4 sheep getting sheared. I don't really know how to conjugate that, which is like a very oddly satisfying thing to watch. It looks like they're just like unzipping a little coat that they take off. I also watched a cattle dog herding competition, and the owner is like using a little whistle and the dog has to herd a group of 4 sheep around an obstacle course. But meanwhile, the commentator is like live commenting on the herding strategies that the dog is taking and being like, oh, I wouldn't have chosen to go around that way. You're gonna lose a few seconds with that. I found very charming. There also was like an auction for spinning equipment, and that was being led by like a guy with the classic auction sort of like, like I can't even pretend to do it as fast as he does. And he's wearing a big white cowboy hat. That was amazing. Okay, that was another cool thing for me though, was, you know, I really just knit at this point, but there's so many fiber related hobbies and it was so cool to see all of them in this space too. And a lot of these booths just have people sitting out front spinning at the booth. So that was just such a cool, like, getting to see glimpses into all of these other fiber hobbies I don't know about. So yeah, Saturday was super fun. And just a lot of browsing and like getting a lay of the land in general. It felt like it flew by so quickly. We did all get lunch at the food carts. You could also totally bring a picnic. That was another fun part, was just getting to try out the food vendors. So I got fried or roasted Brussels sprouts and then also pickle soup, which I'd never had before, but was so good. But I feel like going to the food vendors was just kind of like a fun way to regroup with the people that I came with. And I also ended up running into 2 girls from my knitting group in Vermont who I knew were going to be there, but we hadn't like coordinated a time yet to meet up together. So that was really fun to get to see them. And I met someone who has watched me on YouTube on here. So thank you so much for saying hi. That was so much fun. And I am still thinking about your beautiful mermaid hair. But that was just so cool to like see people that I'd only ever interacted with online and vice versa, and just like get to connect in person. So that was amazing. And I think she also recognized me from the sweater that I was wearing. So I'm glad that I wore that because I feel like it made it easier for people to recognize me and find me. I'm so bad at recognizing faces out of context that I don't think I would have been able to do that myself. But a really fun thing about being with a group of other knitters also was that on Saturday, everyone went around in a big circle and did a little show and tell of what they bought that day. So people got really cool yarn and we got to hear all about like what are people's project ideas. With that said, I want to show you the things that I got. So on the first day, I actually didn't get any yarn. I was just kind of in browsing mode, but I did get this tarot deck, which is kind of the classic Rider-Waite tarot deck. And the reason I wanted this is I already have a tarot deck. There's sort of like a superstition that you shouldn't buy yourself your first one. But I wanted to get this sort of classic one because the one that I have that a friend gave me is actually Buffy themed. So I figured, I don't know, to go with my star tarot card sweater, I wanted to have like the actual star inspiration that I used for it because my Buffy one actually has Kendra, the vampire slayer, with a stake on it. So it was there and it was like the same price of all the tarot decks that I've looked at buying anyway. So I thought, why not have this deck be a little memento, a souvenir? And then I also got this book by the author Nora Gon. So I had just come from the Pom Pom booth where they had a really cool, very like architectural, accordion, sculptural-ish scarf. And then I saw this and I was like very much in the mood for sort of like sculptural knits. And just as I was about to say to my friend, oh, this author's cable book is so good, I love it, I looked and I saw the name tag of the person sitting behind the booth and it was Nora Gon herself. So she signed my book for me, which is nice. I had asked her to write to Tamara, my knitting bestie, you inspire me every day, love Nora. And instead she chose to write, great to meet you, but take what I can get. But I'm excited to go through this one. I think her books are just very, very high quality. I love her cable book, especially because she sort of talks about how she likes to make new cable charts from motifs. So that's super cool. Okay, and then Sunday was much more of a shopping heavy day. So first, I got this yarn from 100 Ravens. So this is a sock weight yarn, so fingering weight. It is in the colorway Hungarian Horntail, and it's 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. It's super, super soft. And I just thought this sort of like burgundy maroon red was really pretty. And I'm thinking about using this for another one of that camisole design that I've been working on. I just really like that as almost like the equivalent of a sock project for me. It's just sort of like a semi-mindless project and fairly small needles, but feels like it just goes by very quickly. And I've been wanting some more like filler projects in my life, and I feel like this color is just really, really pretty. I've been looking for sort of like a rich, dark red. So I got that from them, and then I also got this little knitter enamel pin that I thought was so cute. It kind of looks like a traditional tattoo, so I don't know. I just love that. I'll probably put it on a backpack or something. And that was also from 100 Ravens. And then I also got a little enamel pin. I'm gonna give this as a gift to my friend from the Clever Clove. And this is a Jane Eyre pin. Sorry, it's in a plastic wrap that makes it a little hard to see. But that's one of my friend's favorite books, and I just thought it was really cute. I love the sort of like dusty periwinkle color. And then I was looking for yarn, more yarn. So I got this cone of black cotton yarn from Comfort Cloth Weaving. So this was meant to be a booth for weaving, but this is the type of yarn mate that I use on my standard gauge knitting machine. And what I liked about this one, it's 100% cotton. I liked that the black actually has some sort of like tonal blue variations in it. I just feel like I'm entering a tonal era of my life. I've been very much solid colors or bust, but this color, or this cardigan, used some kind of tonal brown yarn. This is definitely sort of a tonal hand-dyed, has some slight color variations in it. I just am finishing another tank top that's using a green tonal yarn, so I just feel like I'm in the tonal era. And then lastly, my big yarn purchase is this Primrose yarn Rowan DK. It's a 3-ply DK yarn, 230 yards. It's 60% superwash merino, 40% domestic non-superwash merino, and it's locally mill spun and hand dyed in York, Pennsylvania. I'm just reading off of this. But this is the Rowan DK in the color Zodiac, which actually another person in my group, Diane, had gotten this on Saturday and showed it off in our little group show and tell, and I thought it was so beautiful, and then I ended up getting influenced and I bought the same one. I did look at a couple of different yarns. I will say I felt like it was a little bit hard to find non-superwash yarns in the kind of very concentrated, deep, moody color family like I'm currently obsessed with and looking for. And I was looking for non-superwash because, I don't know, I just sometimes feel like I'm on a little roller coaster with superwash of like, oh, I accounted for the stretch with the gauge. Oh my God, it stretched more than I thought it would. Oh my God, I shrank it in the dryer and now it's fine, but that was stressful. And I don't know. I wanted to get off that roller coaster for a sec, but this is only partially. It's a superwash blend, so you should not put it in the dryer or it may felt, but it's not gonna stretch quite as much as a regular superwash would. This is written as DK, but honestly it feels much more like a worsted weight to me, but I feel like yarn weights are very, not subjective, but there's quite a bit of variation in my experience. So I got 4 skeins of this. I've already caked one up, and that kind of shows the color better. It has sort of these like, it's almost like a black cherry. If I had to say, it's a little bit purpley, a little bit maroon, a little bit brown, a little bit red. Here's a swatch of it with US 6 or 4mm needles, and that shows some of the variegation in it. And I'm thinking of doing a V-neck cardigan. I'm really into V-neck cardigans right now, but I'm thinking of doing a V-neck cardigan for this because this feels a little bit like sturdier of a yarn than some of the things I've been using in terms of like likeliness to pill, but it still feels totally comfortable on my neck. So I feel like it's almost a little bit, reminds me of Cascade 220 in that way, where it doesn't necessarily have like a super, super soft, buttery feeling on your hands, but it doesn't bother my itch prone and sensitive skin at all. So I'm really excited about that. So that is kind of my big project idea. So I'm gonna make some kind of tank out of this cotton, and then a cardigan out of this, and then probably a camisole out of this. I can't believe how soft and amazing that feels. But I feel like that kind of shopping experience just felt so easy and chill to be sort of just browsing and enjoying the festival on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I was much more like deliberate about what I wanted to get. But even if I didn't buy anything at all, I feel like it still would have just been such a fun time. You're just like connecting with random people. Like, I also feel like I found out about so many brands and so many yarns that I had never heard of before. Like, I'd never heard of Primrose. I also learned about this brand called Garthenor. They have super, super soft mill spun yarn. None of the colors that they had were quite like moody enough for what I was looking for, but I would definitely consider them for other future projects. I need to find it. There was also this yarn that I really debated buying that they called the base Kitten, and it was like a cashmere silk blend in this like lustrous, dark, not quite black, but charcoal almost. I don't know, it made me think about like moonlight on dark things at night. It just was like, if a yarn could be sexy, this yarn is the sexiest yarn that exists. But it was $90 a skein, so I could not justify it, but maybe I will have some regrets, and I feel like I'll think about that yarn for a while to come. Okay, this video was kind of all over the place, but if you can't tell, I honestly had such an amazing time at this festival. I just enjoyed myself so much. So I feel like if you're on the fence about whether or not Rhinebeck is worth it, I guess just think about what kinds of things you like to do, because I think if you're just going for a shopping experience, and if you get stressed out by crowds, like you can always shop these things online. But I feel like if you're looking for kind of getting just entertainment out of the event and really enjoying just kind of window shopping, browsing, looking at all the different animals, going to different like demos or events. I also saw an alpaca obstacle course. Like, there's just cute stuff everywhere in my opinion. And if you're just going to sort of like feel the good energy of other knitters who are excited about knitting, excited about fiber, excited to compliment each other, then I think you might really enjoy it and it might be worth it for you. And again, this is not specific to the New York Sheep and Wool Festival. I think if any of that sounds appealing to you, you should totally look for a local one or whatever one is most accessible to you and your life or budget or where you live or how much you want to travel for it, etc. I don't know. I love knitting, clearly, so much. It has brought so much joy and inspiration and connection into my life. I hope it does the same for you. I'm just gonna end on that happy note. I love this hobby. I love the community that comes with it. And thank you for watching this like disorganized special edition of my knitting podcast. I can't wait to show you projects with some of the things that I got. So yeah, if you don't subscribe, consider subscribing. I will be sharing a lot more knitting content. And for everyone else, the knitting community is like literally and figuratively the softest, warmest place on the internet, in my opinion. So thank you for your part in that, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.